Whenever we talk about fashion in India, it is impossible to leave out a very, very big influence, and that is cinema. For all of our mothers, grandmothers, and even for us while growing up, cinema wasn't just entertainment. It was our catalog, our fashion magazine all in one. Before Instagram or before Pinterest, how did women in small towns know what was in, what was trending? They went to the single screen theater, watched the heroine on the big screen, and came home saying to the tailor, I want to make this same blouse. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All About Her. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about Bollywood's influence on Indian women's style. Let's travel back through the decades and see how a very famous film industry, Bollywood, quietly stitched itself into the fabric of how Indian women styled and dressed. When the Indian cinema was still working on its foundation, clothing was still very rooted in tradition. And the women on screen mostly represented the common woman, and the costumes were mostly influenced by theatre and local practice. But here's something many of us don't even realize. Back then, cinema had already started to change how we dress by incorporating small touches that slightly elevated the outfits. For example, the blouse and the petticoat under the sari, it became very popular only because of the colonial influence. And when early actresses wore it on screen, it normalized the look for countless women in local and urban areas. And it spread the fashion awareness among the Indian women. So Bollywood didn't just reflect what people wore, it accelerated small changes that were happening in the society. Around the 1950s, India was newly independent, and people were looking for identity, dignity, and aspiration. And at that time, we had actors like Nargis in Mother India, Meena Kumari in Pakiza, and Madhubala in Mughal Azam. And on screen, their saris were not just clothes, they were fashion statements. Bhanu Athreya, who was India's first Oscar winning costume designer, was at the forefront during that time. She designed saris that were lighter, easier to drape, and more graceful under the studio lights. In the film Amrapali in 1966, Athreya recreated ancient clothing but softened it for modern eyes, like simple drapes, subtle jewelry. It looked like history, but it was actually very contemporary. That is the magic Bollywood did. It gave us the chance to visualize ourselves as well in those outfits. A year later, the movie An Evening in Paris was released, which had the song Asman Se Aaya Farishta. Music slowly becomes louder, and there she is, Sharmila Tagore, stepping out of the water. And for a second, the theatre forgets to breathe. Because it's the first time that a mainstream Hindi film star wore a bikini on screen. One simple clothing choice, and suddenly scene cut to igniting a national debate about modernity, modesty, women's agency on their own bodies. Legendary actor Sharmila herself said that the scene shocked the audience, and questions were raised even in the parliament. The full arc is that decades later, she served as a chairperson of the Central Board of Film Certification from 2004 to 2011, navigating the same conversation from the other side of the table. You know, one of the most famous and stylish actor during that period was Sadhana, widely known for her famous fringe, the Sadhana cut. It was actually inspired by Audrey Hepburn, a famous Hollywood actor who redefined elegance for an entire generation of women. Sadhana paired that fringe with her churidar kurta in the 1965 movie Waqt, and that became a uniform for young college girls in India. By the 70s, India was changing. Sure, there was political unrest, but there was also disco music, new youth culture, a strong desire to break rules. So our Bollywood's top heroines followed suit. Hema Malini in the movie Sita or Geeta danced in colorful salwar kameezes. And Zeenat Aman and Parveen Babi, they brought western silhouettes like bell bottoms, halter tops, wrap skirts, oversized shades. And suddenly we had girls in Indian towns wearing trousers or experimenting with dupattas tied like scarves or trying the bohemian look. There is this big misconception people have. People often think that women in the 70s and 80s only wore saris, salwar suits, and that jeans and all is a Western import which came later. But honestly, not true at all. Films like Hare Rama, Hare Krishna in 1971 and Dawn in 1978 already put our heroines in flared pants and hippie tops. And what's really cool is that the city girls started copying it almost immediately. By the 80s, even costume designers had become mini celebrities. Fashion designers like Anna Singh was dressing stars like Rekha and Sridevi. And every outfit was thought out. They were blending tradition with a new kind of boldness. And honestly, that mix is still what defines Indian fashion today. Do you remember that blue chiffon sari worn by Sridevi in the movie Mr. India, where she's dancing in the rain? That became absolutely iconic. But what many don't know is that chiffon saris were actually very expensive imports at that time. So after that movie, lighter synthetic versions of the chiffon flooded the local market so that ordinary women could imitate their look and fulfill their Bollywood dream. The 90s was the real game changer. Liberalization, MTV, satellite TV, India was opening up and so was fashion. Do you remember Urmila Matondkar from Rangila in 1995? Crop tops, denim shorts, chiffon saris with halter blouses. Yeah, those were designed by fashion designer Manish Malhotra. That film didn't just influence fashion, it literally exploded a whole new industry of Bollywood styling. Suddenly, boutiques in Delhi and Mumbai was flooded with the so-called Rangila tops. Madhuri Dixit in Dil To Pagal Hai and Karishma Kapoor and Raja Hindustani gave us outfits that were instantly copied for college farewells, wedding receptions. And the fun part is, it wasn't just the heroines setting trends. Even Salman Khan joined the party. Those sleeveless sweaters he wore in Hum Aapke Hai Kaun was a total craze. Suddenly, everyone wanted one, and somehow even women started borrowing from men's fashion. The jackets, caps, oversized shirts. Together, it all came this cute unisex street style vibe. By the end of 90s, Bollywood was no longer reflecting fashion. It was producing it, packaging it, and selling it. And women across India, from metros to tier 2 towns, were wearing clothes inspired directly from the big screen. Sometimes, we think our wardrobes are our personal taste or random shopping choices. But if you look closer, the sari style you wear or the blouse cut you prefer, the churidar over salwar, the idea of a party gown, these actually came to us through cinema at some point or the other. What's really interesting is that fashion in Bollywood has never been one sided. It's always this constant back and forth between tradition and modernity, between what we dream of and what we actually wear. between being bold and being modest. So the next time you pull out a chiffon sari or throw a kurti on your jeans, just remember that these are not random trends. You are a part of a long cinematic story.